Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first moderator debate. The theme of today is Excellence Does Not Fear Observation. Here we have today gathered some of O-MUN's finest moderating team and obviously some very, very strong Model United Nations delegates. And today is their opportunity to shine and provide a good example of what an online debate sounds like using modified Simon rules and procedures. Today, your most honorable chair will be Arthur Shin from Mount Kiara International School in Malaysia. He is a very pivotal individual in the development of our online MUN program, and as you can see from the lengthy list of Model UN accomplishments, you are in good hands today. Without any further ado, I would like to formally turn this over to Arthur, who will begin today's proceedings.
Hello, delegates. I'm Arthur Shin, and we'll move to the next slide. Before that, I'd like to introduce you to our amendment mod today, who is Ritika, and Rohan, who is our backup amendment mod. Also, we'll now begin roll call. When your country name is called, please press the talk button and say President voting. Delegate of China.
Present.
Delegate of France.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Iran.
The delegate of Iran is present and voting.
Delegate of Israel.
Present.
Delegate of Portugal.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Russia.
Present.
Delegate of Saudi Arabia.
Present.
Delegate of Syria.
Present and voting.
Delegate of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Ukraine. Delegate of Ukraine.
Present. Present.
Delegate of the United States of America.
Present and voting.
Thank you. We'll now move to debates on the resolution. Please wait for the chair to pull up the resolution on the whiteboard. The resolution is now up on the board. We'll now commence debates. Would the main submitter please read out the operative clauses?
Affirms the international community's resolve to creating a democracy within Syria, which benefits the Syrian people. 2. Supports the United Nations' initial 6-point plan for Syria by Envoy Kofi Annan and the unanimous support provided by the United Nations Security Council on said plan. 3. Strongly urges the Syrian government to recognize the individual rights of all peoples as stipulated within the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and to afford the right to all people. 4. Endorses the requirement for free and fair elections under the supervision of international monitors from the Arab League, Transparency International, and from the United Nations, with an allowance for minorities to freely cast their votes without fear of reprisals to pave the way for a better future. 5. Recommends the international community consider alternate strategies regarding aid for Syria, and in doing so, will aid its United States Agency for International Development and other such organizations by A. Providing economic assistance through I. Direct budget support, II. Development assistance, III. Infrastructure investment, IV. And technical advice on implementing economic policy adjustments. B. Rebuilding Syria, by focusing on three key areas, which are communication, education, and industrial growth, with an emphasis on I. Providing suitable vocational training to Syrians in order to encourage the population to rebuild their own nation. II. Recruiting local Syrian contractors instead of foreign counterparts in order to increase employment and ownership. C. Enhancing bilateral and regional trade possibilities whilst implementing reconstruction opportunity zones as seen through successes in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Pakistan, and encouraging foreign investment. 6. Calls for the creation of a civilian protection program under the Human Rights Watch and the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, UNHCR, and other relevant authorities in order to minimize the threat to civilians on the road to peace and security. 7. Request the establishment of secure havens in which internally displaced persons will be placed under protection of the UNHCR, UN Police, and the United Nations Disengagement Observer Force, UNDOF, whereby A. Practical resources can be delivered so as to ensure the survival of these persons. B. The location is accessible to civilians, yet secure and protected under the auspices of the United Nations. C. Camps be set up based on the cluster approach. D. Recommends that the havens as stated are temporary and are only available until 2020, whereby it shall be the responsibility of the UNHCR and the Syrian Arab Republic to provide permanent shelter to IDPs, wherein a suitable infrastructure can be established and basic amenities provided according to World Health Organization standards. Clause 8. Calls upon the International Monetary Fund and the United Nations Development Programme to further their mandate as the United Nations Human Rights Council, UNHRC, A/HRC/Res/711 resolution approved in 2008 in order to enhance governance and anti-corruption reforms which are set in place in the Syrian Arab Republic by A. Increasing domestic and foreign support for government-driven programs of government and anti-corruption reform through methods such as, but not limited to, I. Television advertisements, radio shows, internet, and other forms of mass media. II. Pamphlets, bulletin boards, billboards, and posters, oral presentations to illiterate citizens about the benefits of democratic reform. B. Ensuring that governance issues concerning Assad be settled in order to encourage respective sectors of the Syrian Arab Republic be actively engaged in the implementation of governance reform. C. Expanding and facilitating government interests in promoting anti-corruption and democratic reform through measures including, but not limited to, I. Bilateral discussions with representatives of various agencies. II. Annual evaluations of Syria's progress in terms of governance, technical, and financial assistance. Clause 9. Calls upon member nations to arrest and prosecute criminals involved in the Syrian uprising who have caused crimes against humanity and have caused irreplaceable damage to lives, families, and the rich culture and diversity of Syria. Clause 10. Supports the establishment of a law of return, entitling any person of Syrian descent to return to the Syrian Arab Republic, whereby they will be given opportunities afforded to them as full citizens of Syria in order to rebuild the status of Syria. Clause 11. Asks the Syrian government to allow aid provided by the international community and non-governmental organizations into Syria in order to ensure that civilians have access to the following, but not limited to: A. Food, potable water, and other basic requirements. B. Health care for casualties, the elderly, and the children. C. Provision of safety and protection for humanitarian aid workers under the Geneva Convention. Clause 12. Requests the Syrian Arab Republic consider peaceful democratic transition, including, but not limited to, A. Change leadership within the Syrian government, including but not limited to President Bashar al-Assad, wherein he will relinquish all powers he has within the Syrian Arab Republic. B. Calls for the establishment of a Syrian National Security Council, modeled after the Turkish National Security Council, wherein it is given control as a judicial body and charged with protecting the unity and secular nature of the Syrian Arab Republic. C. Entering ceasefire negotiations with the Syrian National Council in order to pave the way for future elections. Clause 13. Trust that once the ceasefire is met, that disarmament of members of the Syrian National Council and associated bodies be conducted under the guidance of the United Nations Office for Disarmament Affairs and the UNDOF. Clause 14 resolves to remain actively seized on this matter in accordance to the United Nations Charter. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. The Chair now sets an open debate time of 45 minutes on the resolution as a whole. Delegate, you may proceed with your opening speech.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Ambassadors from distant lands, friends of all, the United States of America stands before you today, inspired. Inspired by the Syrian people's pursuit of a peaceful transition to democracy. Ladies and gentlemen of the United Nations, for months, the Syrian people have withstood brutality at the hands of their government. Reports from the Arab League monitors state that the Assad regime has executed a campaign of violence against Syrian people, regardless of its pledges in the presence of these monitors. No one is safe. Civilians gunned down in the streets, towns shelled. No one is safe. Not even officials of the Syrian Arab Red Crescent. This regime also continues to arbitrarily detain Syrian citizens, activists such as Yahya al-Shabaji, simply for demanding dignity and universal rights. These men and women have not only been denied proper justice, but they have been subjected to torture at the hands of this regime. These violations of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights goes against the rights of all people, of all humanity, and this has revealed to us the Assad government's flagrant disrespect for dignity and rights of the Syrian people. This resolution for us today is the result of their cries. The United States calls upon the international community to read and understand this resolution. We want peace and stability to return to Syria. Democracy is a broad ideal. We can only implement democracy if we help Syria. For too long have we stood behind the veils of sanctions and embargoes. Today, the United States stands ready to offer assistance to the people of Syria to peacefully rise and claim your freedoms. Today, the international community must join hands in solidarity to push for peace and stability. The United Nations and the United States, however, should stand firm in one regard. The United States will not impose foreign intervention upon Syria, but we will support the efforts to bring about a Syria that is democratic, just, and inclusive for all Syrians. This resolution covers all of that. Law, trade, commerce, freedoms, citizenship, reconstruction, pride, respect, and governance. This is what the United States of America offers to the Syrian people and to the Middle East. We will support this outcome by pressuring President Assad to get out of the way of this transition. Let the international community stand up for the rights of the Syrian people. Only then can we advance towards a future in Syria. This ambassador would like to state, the USA does not simply walk into Syria. There is an evil fire that does not sleep. It has become a barren wasteland, riddled with fire and ash and dust. The very air you breathe has become a poisonous fume. Together with this resolution and your support, ladies and gentlemen of the United Nations, we can change that. We can do this. Ladies and gentlemen of the international community, this is why we are here today. To be a voice for people without a voice. To call for President Assad to change. And most of all, to be inspired. Thank you all, and God bless this debate.
Thank you, Delegate. Is the Delegate open to any points of information?
The Delegate is open to any and all points of information pertaining to the resolution.
The Delegate has opened himself. Please wait till the Chair calls out for points of information. The Delegate has opened himself up to any and all points of information. Are there any in the House at this time? Delegate of Syria and France, you've been recognized, and Russia, you can recognize in that order, please. And Delegate Please be reminded to not lower your placards as it makes life easier for the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. First of all, the delegate of Syria would like to congratulate the delegate of the USA for such an eloquently written resolution that so clearly upholds peace established within the Syrian borders. However, regarding a specific section of the resolution, Clause 9, which states, calls upon member nations to arrest and prosecute criminals involved in the Syrian uprising who have caused crimes against humanity and have caused irreplaceable damage to lives, families, and the rich culture and diversity of Syria. Does this include mainstream citizens involved in the uprisings who lashed out in violence against governmental individuals or bodies or in the act to the public itself? If so, you're in essence stating that you wish to throw hundreds of individuals who are striving to voice their wants and needs behind bars. So the delegate of Syria asks you, is this how you define the peaceful establishment of democracy?
The delegate of the United States of America realizes this and would like to point out the phrase within that clause, crimes against humanity. Please go and research what crimes against humanity stands for. Thank you.
Delegate of France.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. To the delegate of USA, France would like to ask a question on Clause 10. France thinks it's a little vague. Does this clause provide for any and all people of Syrian descent? For example, does it provide for people of full Syrian descent or maybe partial Syrian descent? Does this provide for first-generation immigrants or the descendants of immigrants that have already been assimilated into their adopted country? France believes that entitling any person of Syrian descent is pretty vague and would like the USA to define it a little bit more clearly. Thank you.
Delegate of USA agrees that this may seem vague. However, in the past this has been implemented before in the case of Israel, wherein anyone of Jewish descent was allowed Israeli citizenship. This is what the United States of America would like to implement in Syria, to encourage anyone who has Syrian descent to return to Syria. Anyone at all who can call themselves Syrian should be able to return to their homeland and help rebuild it. Thank you.
First of all, the delegate of the Russian Federation would like to thank the delegate of the United States of America for respecting Russia's demands of not having any foreign military intervention in Syria. However, Clause 4 mentions, quote, free and fair elections in Syria, end quote. Isn't the delegate aware that such elections have taken place in Syria recently, with an overwhelming majority favoring Assad to stay in power?
The delegate of the United States of America is aware of that. However, there were not many foreign parties involved. The delegate of the United States of America also believes that the Arab League monitors were not there at the time, as they had already left Syria. Thank you.
Delegate of Iran, why is the delegate raising her placard? Is that a point of information to the chair, or is that a motion? Delegate of Iran, is that a point of information to the chair, or is that a point of information to the chair asking to extend points of information by one? That will be in order. Are there any further points of information for the delegate of the United States of America? Delegate of Iran, you've been recognized.
How does the USA define these crimes in Clause 9? And how would those criminals be caught through military means? Do you mean Delegate of USA? Thank you.
Can the chair please ask the delegate to rephrase her point of information?
That is in order. Would the delegate of Iran please rephrase her point of information?
In Clause 9, how does the USA define these crimes, and how would they decide who would be considered criminals? Thank you.
The delegate of the United States sees that, and he would like to point out that this is the United Nations, not the United States of America Supreme Court, and thus the United States of America is only one vote within this entire General Assembly, and thus we all have a vote to decide what really is a crime against humanity and who should be tried. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the delegate like to give the floor back to the chair or to another delegate?
The delegate would like to yield the floor to the delegate of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Is that in order?
That is in order. Delegate of the United Kingdom and the British of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, this delegate believes that this is a wonderful resolution put together by a delegate of the United States of America. Firstly, because it is a comprehensive resolution and addresses all the key issues that surround the delicate situation in Syria, while also respecting how delicate the situation is around Syria, because as you all know, this is a very touchy and gentle situation, and we must take care when we deal with such a thing. So, for example, in clauses 1, 2, and 3, although these are obvious clauses to implement, by placing them in the resolution, we as a General Assembly are definitely reaffirming how we are pushing for democracy and how we feel that in Syria there should be such a thing. And so, from this delegate's point of view, the delegate of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, I urge you to support this resolution and help resolve the situation in Syria. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the delegate open to any points of information?
This delegate is open to 2 points of information.
The delegate has opened himself up to 2 points of information. Are there any in the House at this time? Delegate of Israel and the United States of America, you've been recognized.
The delegate would firstly like to thank the delegate of the United States of America for such a comprehensive resolution that looks with great depth at the humanitarian aspect of the Syrian revolution. However, considering that Syria has close ties with axis of evil countries and organizations, such as but not limited to Iran, Hezbollah, and the Palestinian Resistance Front, Hamas, this state of instability in Syria, Israel is afraid that the developed missile arsenal and chemical weapons, as well as non-conventional weapons, may fall into the hands of irresponsible people, namely terrorists, thus posing a threat on the adjacent lands of Israel. So how does the delegate suggest this resolution tackles the issue of the security of Israel?
Thank you, Delegate. The Delegate of the United Kingdom believes that this does tackle the issue surrounding Israel, because to end what's going on in Syria, President Bashar al-Assad must step down. And this resolution implement extreme measures. Apologies for the delegate's telephone. This resolution implements serious measures to force or to coerce President Bashar al-Assad to step down. And through this, I believe that adjacent nations can be assured in the knowledge that their security will be maintained.
Request follow-up.
That is in order.
The delegate of Israel does recognize the effect of Bashar al-Assad stepping down from his regime on the stability of Syria and on the conflict there. However, can the delegate suggest where the military of Syria is safeguarded and how it will ensure that the very developed weapon arsenal of Syria will remain under control even when the Assad regime is abolished and an interim government takes control?
Well, thank you, Delegate. The Delegate of the United Kingdom would like to draw the Delegate of Israel's attention to Clause 13, which reads, trust that once ceasefire is met, that disarmaments of members of the Syrian National Council and associated bodies be conducted under the guidance of the United Nations Office for Disarmament Affairs and UNDOF. I believe Clause 13 addresses your question quite comprehensively and shows that after the Assad regime has been resolved, that a disarmament will happen relatively quickly and relatively safely.
Delegate of USA. Seeing as the delegate of USA is having technical difficulties. Oh, never mind. Delegate of USA. Continue. Delegate of USA. You may continue with your point of information.
Can the delegate of the United Kingdom please elaborate on what would be the United Kingdom's stance if President Assad did not heed calls to stand down?
Thank you, Delegate. Firstly, this delegate would like to say that the international pressure on the flag to step down is very high. And as we've seen before, extremely high international pressure can lead to dictatorial regimes coming to an end, such as President Hosni Mubarak in Egypt, who stepped down after decades in charge, after sustained pressure from the international community. So firstly, I would like to say that what I'm trying to say is that international pressure can result, and most likely will result, in Assad stepping down. But secondly, if Assad ignores calls to step down, then this delegate has submitted an amendment which he hopes will be entertained later, which will answer the delegate of the United States question. And on a point of information to the chair.
Please rise. Please state your points.
Should room chat be disabled during the debate?
That is in order. The chair will get on that. Would the delegate like to yield the floor back to the chair or to another delegate?
Delegate yields the floor back to the chair.
Thank you. The floor is open once again. Are there any delegates that wish to speak on the resolution as a whole? Delegate of USA, you have been recognized.
The delegate has submitted a friendly amendment.
That is not in order, as there are no friendly amendments in standard procedure. However, the chair will still entertain that amendment. The amendment reads to add new clause 14. Demands that President Assad be held accountable for all his crimes against the people of Syria and against humanity, and be fairly tried and accordingly treated by the International Criminal Court. The chair sets a closed debate time of 5 minutes for and 5 minutes against. Delegate, you now have the floor.
Delegates, President Assad stands before us today as the figurehead of official Syria. We know as a fact from the Arab League monitors who have come out of Syria that regardless of all his pledges to his people, he still guns them down in the streets, shells cities such as homes, detains activists, tortures them, and denies basic rights to civilians. He denies rights to the international community by not allowing free journalism and foreign press into Syria. Ladies and gentlemen, how can we as the international community know and further understand what is happening within Syria if President Assad continues to act this way? Thus, ladies and gentlemen, with this new amendment within this resolution, we will be able to hold President Assad for all the problems and crimes that he has been committing against humanity and against the United Nations and against all of us. Please vote for this amendment. Thank you.
Is the delegate open to any points of information?
The delegate is open up to 2 points of information. Thank you.
The delegate has opened himself up to 2 points of information. Are there any in the House at this time? Delegate of Syria and Russia. You can recognize in that order, please.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The delegate of Syria understands that this is a somewhat tricky situation to understand and to figure out. However, the delegate of Syria asks the delegate of the United States, how will his crimes be defined? Who will they be defined by? There is muddle within the media that muddles nations' perception of the president himself and of Syria as a whole. How will the media react to this trial against the president? Will it exemplify the truth behind what he's actually committed, or will it, in essence, amplify things that are not true about him? How will this be fair?
Can the chair please ask the delegate of Syria to rephrase her point of information as 1 point? Thank you.
Could the delegate of Syria please rephrase her point of information to 1 point? Also, delegates, please be reminded to refrain from using the main chat. Please private message individuals. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The main point of my question is, how will this trial be fair with the way in which the media tends to amplify things that are not true about the president, about Syria, and overall about nations?
Delegate of Syria, the United States of America commends you for a very valid point, and as such, the delegate of the United States of America believes that the International Criminal Court is hopefully unbiased and will judge President Assad fairly and accordingly without interference from the press. However, in this day and age, the delegate is aware that intervention from the press can lead to unfair results. However, the International Criminal Courts and the ICJ, for example, both uphold high standards of professionalism and The delegate trusts that this will still be the case for President Assad if this does happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate of Russia.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Seeing as the numbers of victims vary between different organizations and countries, how does the United States of America see that we should determine the severity of Assad's so-called crimes? Thank you.
The delegate is aware that the death rates range from 5,000 to 11,000. However, according to the United Nations, the official death rate is at 7,000, and this is also in more or less within lines with the official Syrian Arab Republic's own reports of the death rates. So the delegate believes that this figure should be decided by an international body and by members of the Syrian Arab Republic government. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the delegate please yield the floor back to the chair or to another delegate?
The delegate of the United States of America would like to yield the floor to the chair. Thank you.
Please, could you please verify the theme or the theme about this conference, please?
Delegate, please get off the microphone. We are in session. Please try to message anyone that is relevant to your question at hand. Anyway, the time for this amendment has now elapsed. We'll now move directly into time against. Are there any delegates that wish to speak against this amendment?
Motion to move directly to voting procedure.
Are there any seconds?
Second.
Are there any objections?
Objection.
Seeing as there has been an objection, that motion will not be entertained. Are there any delegates that wish to speak against this amendment? Delegate of China, you've been recognized.
The delegate of China is not in support of this amendment, as it further complicates the issue of trying to bring peace to the country of Syria. Calling out President Assad and asking him to be tried and arrested and judged by ICC does not send a very good message. The delegate truly believes that this amendment is not conducive in urging and pushing the government towards a peaceful transition into a new democracy.
Thank you. Are there any delegates that wish to speak? The chair stands corrected. Is the delegate trying to open to any points of information?
Yes, two.
The delegate has opened himself up to 2 points of information. Are there any else at this time? Delegate of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland and Israel, you can recognize in that order, please.
Thank you. To the delegate of China, when you said that it further complicates the issue, would you be condoning President Assad's actions? Would you be allowing him to walk free?
No, but the delegate believes that whether President Assad is brought to court and allowed to walk free should be completely judged and executed by the Syrian people, not the international community.
Doesn't the delegates agree that the added clause 13, is just a more refined version of clause 9, which calls upon member nations to arrest and prosecute criminals involved in the Syrian uprisings?
Yes, the delegate does believe that this is an extension of the same clause, of the same same clause.
Thank you. Would the delegate like to yield the floor back to the chair?
Yes, the delegate yields the floor back to the chair.
Thank you. Time on this amendment has now elapsed. We will now move directly into voting procedure. There will be votes for and against this amendment. All delegates voting for, please click the check mark. All delegates voting against, please click the X. With 5 votes for, 7 votes against, this amendment fails. The changes will not be made. We'll now move to time on the resolution as a whole. Are there any delegates that wish to speak on the resolution as a whole? Delegate of Russia, you've been recognized.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The delegate of Russia has submitted an amendment.
That is in order. The amendment reads to strike subclause. The amendment reads to strike clause 5, subclause 1.
Thank you. It's subclause 5, subclause A, subclause I, which is direct budget support. Could the amendment moderator please display it? Okay. Thank you, Honorable Chair. Esteemed delegates, the Russian Federation wishes to strike the aforementioned clause because by providing monetary assets to Syria, we might be providing assistance to terrorist organizations cloaked under economic assistance or emergency aid. The whole clause has not mentioned one detail on how transparency will be ensured, or exactly where the money is going and how it will go there. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the delegate open to any points of information?
Any and all.
Thank you. The chair stands corrected. The delegate has opened himself up to any and all points of information, but due to time constraints, the chair will only entertain 2. Are there any in the House at this time? Seeing as there are none, would the delegate... Oh, the chair stands corrected. Delegate of the United States of America, you've been recognized.
Can the delegate of Russia please clarify that he said that money going to Syria will be funding terrorists? Is the delegate implying that Syria is a terrorist state?
No, the delegate was implying that it might be stolen or exploited by terrorists because that is what happened. That was what happened before, and if it happened before, it will definitely happen again. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the delegate like to yield the floor back to the chair or to another delegate?
The delegate would like to yield the floor back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you. The time for this amendment has now elapsed. We will now move directly into voting for... The chair stands corrected. We will now move directly into time against. Are there any delegates that wish to speak against the amendment?
To move to voting procedures.
Just a friendly reminder to all delegates, the correct terminology is motion to move to previous question, not motion to move to voting procedures. However, are there any seconds?
Second.
Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, we'll now move directly to voting procedure. All delegates voting for the amendment, there will be votes for and against. All delegates voting for the amendment, please click the check. All those voting against, please tick the cross. Also a reminder, all delegates must vote. Delegate of Saudi Arabia and Delegate of Saudi Arabia, please cast your votes. Assuming that the delegate of Saudi Arabia is away from his keyboard, there are 6 votes for, 6 votes against. Therefore, this amendment fails. Clapping is not in order. We'll now move into debate on the resolution as a whole. Are there any delegates that wish to speak on the resolution as a whole? Delegate of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, you've been recognized.
The delegate has to...
The delegate has submitted an amendment. The amendment reads, to insert a new clause which reads, condemns the brutal acts of the citizenship of Syria by the Assad regime and threatens an aerial intervention such as in Libya if President Assad refuses to relinquish power. The chair sets a close debate time of 5 minutes for, 5 minutes against on this resolution. The chair stands corrected on this amendment. Delegate, you may proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Delegates of the world, we have stood for too long. We have waited too dumbly aside while over 7,000 people have been murdered by this brutal regime in just under a year. If such serious action has worked in places such as Libya, then surely it will work again. We, as an international community, need to stamp down on such acts of terror and brutality. While I will concede that in Libya, some damage was done to civilians, that this was because it was conducted badly by NATO, and the United Nations will in fact carry out such a procedure much more effectively. We cannot wait any longer, delegates. We cannot stand aside while President Assad continues his murderous reign. We must act now, we must act quickly, and we must do something about this as fast as possible. By voting for this clause, you will not only be supporting democracy around the world, you will be enhancing an already fantastic resolution. I urge you to support this amendment.
Thank you. Is the delegate open to any points of information?
The delegate is open to any and all points of information.
The delegate has opened himself up to any and all points of information. The delegates of China, Portugal, and Syria, you can recognize in that order, please.
Is the delegate not aware of the potential full-blown civil war that could result from the intervention of other nations through aerial support? This could definitely lead to an immense increase of bloodshed.
The delegate would like to say that there is already a civil war in Syria, and in Libya, as a precedent, I would like to state that there was a brutal war in Libya between governmental forces and the resistance, and this it can be mirrored in many nations throughout the Arab Spring, but most similar to what is going on in Syria right now. What happened in Libya was not perfect, and this delegate will, as I said in my speech, as this delegate said in his speech, will concede that many civilians died who should not have died, and this is a tragic event. But we must end this now, and we must end this as quickly as possible. And this clause just adds to the force and power behind this resolution.
The delegate of Portugal is wondering. Apologies. The delegate of Portugal is wondering which nation would be responsible of performing this aerial intervention. Would it be the United Kingdom? Would it be any other sort of army? An answer would be appreciated.
Apologies, the delegate's telephone is going off again. Hopefully you can hear the delegate. 1 second, sorry. Most sincere apologies, delegates and chair. The delegate of Portugal was asking which nations would take control of such a force, and the delegate of the United Kingdom would like to say that the United Kingdom would happily take control, because any nation who wants to support democracy and any nation who wants to prevent bloodshed should be putting their forces and should be committing to such an action. And we believe that Clause 14 doesn't specify any nation, because every nation, if they truly want to support democracy, should be volunteering to commit troops and forces.
Delegate of the UK. In support of what the delegate of China stated, would the delegate of the United Kingdom not agree that such means of military intervention in force, especially with no indication of who would replace the current president, would not lessen the bloodshed, but rather substantially intensify it? If such turmoil and bloodbath is what the foreign bodies wish upon citizens within the borders of Syria, then quite frankly, motives behind that are questionable, and resolutions supporting that are very weak.
So we'd like to say that, firstly, the UK firmly believes in peaceful negotiation, but we as an international community have got to start being honest with ourselves. We are running out of time, and we have just sat here for too long. When it gets to the point where a president, just like Bounds Donkey, refuses to move from his stance, then we must start taking firm action. We've tried everything as an international community, and I fully support all the measures taken and the resilience shown by the Syrian people. But we're running out of time, and we've waited for too long.
Is the delegate of the UK aware that what's happening in Syria is not a civil war, and it's just an immense crackdown of its own people, not like Libya where the opposition was unified? Thank you.
Delegate of Iran, the chair has not entertained more points of information yet. Please wait. Are there any further points of information for the delegate of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland? The chair repeats, are there any further points of information for the delegate of the UK? Delegate of China and Iran, you are recognized.
Yes, the delegate of China is is the delegate not how is the delegate going to ensure that such a clause is not going to lead to the same repercussions as it led in Libya? As currently Libya is not in a very good state right now, and the delegate fears that such intervention from international forces will lead to the same chaos and disorganization that's currently happening in Libya.
Well, certainly the delegate of the United Kingdom believes that Libya is firmly on the road to recovery, having with a stable interim government until elections are sorted out. And the results of the Libyan uprising and the Libyan intervention were that Colonel Gaddafi was killed, and democracy was installed. And those are two things we can hope for in Syria. We can hope for the dictator to be captured and tried, and we can hope for democracy to be installed. And the intervention in Libya led to both those things. So Clause 14, from this delegate's point of view, hopes to lead to the same things as well.
Is the delegate aware, is the delegate of the UK aware that what's happening in Syria is not a civil war and it's just an immense crackdown of its own people, not like Libya where the opposition was unified? Thank you.
Perhaps this delegate did get it wrong, but this delegate feels that if a government is cracking down on protesters and cracking down on its own citizenship, then that government does not deserve to be in power and cannot call itself a peaceful, democratic nation. And as a strong advocate for democracy all across the world, this delegate feels that the international community must do everything we can to stop this, and we believe that Clause 14 does enhance this resolution.
Thank you. Would the delegate like to yield the floor back to the chair or to another delegate?
I would very much like to yield the floor back to the chair.
Thank you. Time for this amendment has now elapsed. We'll now move directly into time against. Also, another reminder to the delegates, personal pronouns should not be used. Please refer to yourself as the delegate or in third person. Are there any delegates that wish to speak against this amendment? Delegate of Saudi Arabia, you've been recognized.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Fellow delegates, Assalamu alaikum. Salam. The basis of the Muslim community is peace. And this is something that the Western world has not got. This is something that the Western world does not realize. And this clause is typical of the superpowers of the West. They want to show off their military might and scare other countries. Yet, this is not what the Muslim world is for. This is not what people should do. Bloodshed is not what we want. The delegate of Saudi Arabia is strongly against this clause and believes and would like to put this in perspective as, to something that most delegates would understand. Bombing for peace is much like having sex for virginity. This does not make any sense in any way and should be avoided at all costs. Thank you.
Delegate, please refrain from using improper language. Is the delegate open to any points of information?
And do you know?
The delegate has opened himself up to any and all points of information, but due to time constraints, the chair will only entertain 3. Are there any in the House at this time? Delegate of Israel, you've been recognized.
The delegate of Israel would thank the delegate of Saudi Arabia for his point. However, the delegate is curious if Saudi Arabia is so concerned for minimizing bloodshed and is so against military intervention, then why has Saudi Arabia backed the Syrian rebels in their fight against the Syrians?
The chair, sorry, the audio on my end got cut out. Could the chair please ask the delegate to repeat her question?
Would the delegate please rephrase her point of information?
Yes, the delegate would rephrase her point of information. The delegate of Saudi Arabia has expressed his disapproval for any military intervention or military solution for the situation in Syria. However, the delegate finds this quite ironic because Saudi Arabia's foreign minister has backed the idea of arming the rebels fighting President Bashar Assad's regime. Doesn't the delegate believe that arming the rebels is actually going to increase the bloodshed and is in fact a form of military solution to the conflict?
The delegate of Saudi Arabia thanks the delegate of Israel for her comments. However, the delegate of Saudi Arabia strongly believes that there should not be any sort of foreign intervention into this situation. Whatever happens in the state of Syria should be dealt with by the Syrian people, and therefore strongly is against foreign intervention into this issue.
Request follow-up.
Due to time constraints, that will not be entertained. Sorry, delegate. Would the delegate please yield the floor back to the chair? Delegate of Saudi Arabia.
Yes, the delegate yields the floor.
Thank you. The time for this amendment as a whole has now elapsed. We'll now move directly into voting procedures. There will be votes for and against. All delegates voting for, please take the check mark, and those voting against, please take the cross mark. There will be no abstentions for this amendment, therefore all delegates must vote. Delegate of Ukraine. With 1 for and 10 against, this amendment fails. We'll now move directly to debate time on the resolution. The chair will entertain one final speaker. Are there any delegates that wish to speak on the resolution as a whole? And delegates, please wait till the chair finishes his sentence. So, are there any delegates that wish to speak on the resolution as a whole? Delegate of Portugal, you've been recognized.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The delegate of Portugal would firstly like to express their support for this resolution as a whole. Some delegates may not agree that President Bashar al-Assad should be accountable for his crimes against humanity. Some believe that democracy should not be forced upon the nation just yet. But thousands of people have died, and more are dying each day. One can really glimpse at the news for a second or two and see 60 people have died, 20 people have died, 38 more people have died, all due to the initial and continuing actions by one man. And this man, delegates, is President Bashar al-Assad. We must stop the bloodshed. Sitting around and lingering on vital decisions while civilians are being killed is not stopping the bloodshed. It is allowing it to increase. Hence, the delegate of Portugal feels strongly towards this resolution and urges all delegates to vote for.
Thank you. Would the delegate, like the chair stands corrected, is the delegate open to any points of information?
None. And the delegate would like to yield the floor back to the chair.
Thank you. Time on this resolution as a whole has now elapsed. We'll now move directly into voting procedure. All delegates voting for, please click A. All delegates voting against, please click B. All delegates abstaining, please click C. The voting status will be changing in just a second. Once again, the chair reminds the delegates, all delegates must vote. With 5 votes for, 5 votes against, and 1 abstention, this resolution fails. Is there a motion to divide the House?
Motion to divide the House.
To divide the House.
Seeing as there's been motion, are there any seconds?
Second.
Second.
Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, the chair will now do a roll call vote. delegate of China. When the delegate's country is called out, please reply with the delegate's vote, and there will be no abstentions. Delegate of China.
Against.
Delegate of Iran.
Against.
Delegate of Portugal.
For.
Delegate of France.
For.
Delegate of Israel.
Against?
Delegate of Russia.
Abstaining.
Delegates, there are no abstentions, so please vote for or against.
Against.
Delegate of Saudi Arabia.
For.
Delegate of Syria.
Against.
Delegate of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
For.
Delegate of Turkey. Delegate of Turkey.
For.
Delegate of Ukraine. Delegate of Ukraine. Delegate of the United States of America.
The United States of America votes for this resolution.
With 6 votes for, 5 votes against, this resolution passes. Clapping is now in order. And just a reminder to some of the moderators here, you can clap by clicking the top left button, and scrolling under there's a applause button. Anyway, delegates, well done, great debates, and I think Ms. Martin will take it from here.